like, wait a minute, I don't know him in that sense, but I know my own heart. And that's, I'm quite sure, what he was here to teach. I mean, he was just, for me, an enlightened guy that said, you know, he came from the Essenes and he knew all this and he truly understood the truth. And as he preached that, I think it got misconstrued into that he was some sort of a bridge, whereas the bridge is within us. That Christ light is in us, and that's what we got to come back to. That, again, Bill writes about that. It's the second coming of Christ. It's when you rediscover it as your very own identity. And it is childlike because it's so innocent and unafraid and joyful, and it seems to just be skipping and dancing and carefree, and Bill always used the word aimless. You know, it doesn't have a sort of
meandering.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me interrupt you here. I need you to do one of those beautiful instant replays in different words, because as I'm sort of grooving on what you were saying, I realized the tape recorder wasn't on. Just go back to the friend thing, that some people refer to Jesus as friend, and what that really means from your perspective.
Okay, we'll see if you always ask me to say it again.
No.
I don't know if I can do it again. It's like it comes, but okay, here we go. It's, yes, you know, now, and it's interesting because today is Passover and all this, and everybody's talking about, you know, I mean, it showed throngs of people, you know, going to see the path that Jesus took, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's time to understand that the child within us, that Christ light within us, is what we're to discover, and that people have made Jesus as some sort of, you know, like they say, their personal savior. But it isn't that far off. It isn't some other person that takes us there. It's very close. It's right here. It is the child of us. It is within us. And I think the second coming of Christ is to understand that we don't have to have a man between me and God, but the child is this higher self. It is the bridge between heaven and earth, and we find that, and then we understand that I think Jesus came to tell us that. I mean, I think he kept saying, be as a little child. You know, don't submit yourself to the Pharisees, the pharaohs, the government. You know, find the child and find the light within you. He was saying, you have that light within you. I even says something about the self of you, the one you were before you came to this world. That's our eternal self. That's for each of us to find our own self. It's like a second self. It's the self that really does connect to God, and we don't need to have Jesus in between. When we find our true self, that's the closest we can get, because that one really is our friend. It really does hold our hand. I mean, it's right here. I don't know how people, I guess people feel truly close to this idea of Jesus, but for me, it's more than that. It isn't another person. It is us. It is who I am. It is our very identity that is written in God's big book there, and that's who we are, and we discover that, and life in this world just gets a whole lot easier.
You'll hear the term intercessor, and that would be another name for it, but it isn't a worldly intercessor. It's an intercessor between us and the Father, actually, which is sort of what you were pointing at. The other thing is, let me repeat that Sufi poem that I read previously that came with the image of a Christ-like figure with winged arms with a heart in the middle, which is a Sufi symbol with the sun behind and what looks like the Sean Mountain to me now, and fire, air, earth, and water. And this was in reference to originally something you had said in the last conversation, and this came to mind that sort of captured the spirit of what you had said, and I'm going to read it again here. Beyond the dream of the fleeting me, I watch in the silence of all created things the traces of myself voiding themselves in the roots of all existence. Yet looking down from that timeless, selfless place outside space, I watch the immutable archetype of me sprouting into what I think is me, finally emerging out of its immersion in the fabric of the planet, speeding to the everlastingness and resurrection of a me beyond recognition.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is so beautiful. That is really it. And that's what I was, when you read that, I really see that. It's like, yes, there's this higher me watching how he said that, the fleeting me. I mean, this body, this world is going to come and go. But this higher self can see that and knows it. And that one is completely free from it. And so it makes it so that living in this world is just like an interesting adventure of I mean, we know it's not going, the world of the tangible things. This higher self understands the fleeting me. What a beautiful way to say that. And it is. It's like it's with us, and we are that. And we, at the same time, seeing ourselves here in the world, knowing that nothing lasts, that it's always changing, that it has all these, chaotic, confusing things that come and go and things you have to do, and you just do them because it's so simple. It's such an interesting, joyful journey here because you know what you really are. You know your eternal self. You know, yes, it's seeing both at the same time. It's really makes it so that you can live in this world and be free from it at the same time. So that's a beautiful, beautiful poem. I mean, that says it exactly.
Yeah, there's so lady, I think I may have the last name correct, but it's Deidre Price, who did a book called The Return of the Dove, and I've as you'll catch periodically, I memorized a lot of prayers, and let's see if I can get a prayer that's sort of a prayer for a recognition of that. Christians, for Christians who don't like the term higher self or real self or true self or the lower end of it, ego, false self, and all that, we're really talking about what Paul called Christ in you. That's basically what we're in Christian language.
And I think, isn't that what Jesus was saying? That the light is in every man. You have to recognize that the truth is that we are already perfect, and then trust that. Trust your perfection. Go on.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. It's, O Christ, thou Son of God, I am my own eternal self. Live thou thy life in me, do thou thy will in me, be thou made flesh in me. I have no will but thine, I have no self but thee. Come forth, I am willing to be born in the Spirit. I have no will but thine, I have no self but thee.
Yeah.
That's sort of...
But here again, and this is it, Rich. For me, that is beautiful, but it is, as you say, it's coming from a more,
separative.
Yes, in a way. It's like, for me, the child, and this is my joy, when Bill pointed out the child, it was like, oh, holy cow, I don't have to be what Jesus was, or Christ-like. I get to be what I am, who I am. And this is where this joyful 7-year-old little girl comes back. And that doesn't have much to do with what we think of as some sort of, I don't know, religious vision of what that Christ in me is like. Because I used to think I have to be what that vision of Christ is. And to me, it's like so far beyond what I can even, I don't know. It isn't familiar. Whereas the child within me is so familiar. When you discover it, it's like coming home again. It's coming back to your dear friend that you've always known. The beautiful little boy, the beautiful little girl. Everybody knows who they were when they were 7 years old. We all know that person. And yet, that child is completely wise, and it stands holding God's hand. I mean, it's above all that we know in this world. It knows everything beyond that too. And it gives us that. We get that insight. We see with vision and with great expanse, and it opens the world to us. And then we understand. What that word Christ really means. And it really does mean the innocent, pure, unadulterated child of God. And that's a little different than me trying to strive for some religious vision of that sort of holiness of what I think of as Jesus Christ. I mean, that's like, wow, I'll never get there. But now I realize that's not what you have to do anyway. It's like, wow, God is good. I mean, what a blessing. What a joy. God really is beautiful. I don't have to be somebody else. I get to be me, and that's the beauty. That's the love. That's the thrill of this whole thing.
Well, you're cutting so it's like you have this razor, and you're able to. I'm pretty good with this intellectual scalpel. Well, it really reminds me of that two-edged sword that cuts to the very marrow. It can split it can split nothingness almost. To capture the difference between a prayer for Christ to come to you still implies a implicit duality, a psychological duality, where I am speaking to Christ as if he is other than I am. And with this child, you've transcended that conceptual gap that the mind throws up or the wall, and essentially, I was that. I and the Father are one. I am one with God through this Christ child.
Yes, exactly. It really does do that. That's exactly it. And I think, and that's why Bill always says, to find this Messiah within you is what